Loren Norris with StoryPower TV, and today we are actually going to talk about a book I have not yet read. I don't do that often, but sometimes I do. Today we're going to sit with someone who is a former naval officer, gone children's book author. Yeah, you're going to want to hear this one. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome to StoryPower TV. I am your host, J. Loren Norris, and I really appreciate you being here today. Listen, if you've got kids, this is a good time for them to gather around because we're going to share a little bit of an experience that we have never done on StoryPower TV. It is a first. Probably won't be a last, but it is a first. And that is, we're going to talk about the impact that a father has in the home and how that can be expanded beyond the home in those relationships, just understanding that little people have a different way of looking at the world. So we have in studio a guest with us today, and I really would help if you would, I would really appreciate if you would help me welcome Travis GERARDI. Thank you for being here today, sir.
Hey,
I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So if I just dive right in here, though bad things can happen, as they often do, it's important to be thankful for the good stuff too. We have a saying we say often back in bunny land, you amplify what you magnify. Do you understand?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm looking at the back cover of this book for those of you who can see the cover. I know some of you are listening in audio on Spotify or Apple only, but you really should be watching on StoryPower TV on any of the social media channels or on OBBM so that you can actually see this cute little book. And right here on the back cover, it says, she's feeling grumpy, gloomy, and tangled with feelings. And immediately I thought, StoryPower Academy has an entire course called Attitude Hack, and it's probably one of the most revolutionary things you'll experience as an adult. To think that Travis has jumped into that with this age group is huge. So first, tell me, obviously you're a father.
Yes, sir.
How old are your little ones?
We only have one. Her name's Evelyn, and she's 6.
Evelyn is 6. Okay. And were you still in the military when she came into this world?
I was. We were actually stationed out in Sicily, and so she was actually born out there.
Oh, wow.
In 2019.
Beautiful part of the world.
That was wonderful. One of the best experiences that we've gotten to share as a family. Spending 3 years out there.
I bet. Now, you've been married how long?
Coming up on 9 years.
Coming up on 9 years.
Maybe 8.
So about halfway through. Yeah. Somewhere in there. Always take credit for more, right?
Yeah, right.
So somewhere in there, you were already on active duty when you met your wife?
That's right, yeah. We met in 2016, back in New Orleans, of all places.
Oh. And which part of your military career was that? Enlisted or officer?
That's when I was enlisted. I was about 5 years into my enlisted time at that point, and we met while I was in school in Biloxi, Mississippi.
And what were you going to school for?
The Advanced Calibration Technician certification for, I guess just all things calibration.
And so what made you decide while you were enlisted to move to the officer side?
Oh, man. Well, it actually goes back to my very first school following boot camp. So I was in Pensacola, Florida for A school, where I was learning to be an aviation electronics technician. And our 06, or our what we call a captain at the time, there was all these rumors going around about him, about how he went from E1 to E8 or E9, like senior enlisted, and then went over to become an officer and went 01 to 06. And I just thought it was so cool that he had done it all, right? You know, he wasn't just an officer. He had experienced all the enlisted side and then jumped over. And so I said, that's what I'm going to do, right? I don't know why. It's just like, that's it. That's what I want to do. So I started about a year or so later when I got to my first command. I was able to start using tuition assistance, and I just started plugging away at college courses. And it took me about 8 or 9 years to finish my bachelor's degree between deployment and, just life and work in general, but finished it up around 2019 and then put in for my commissioning.
When I was in the Air Force, that option in my career field wasn't there because I was fire department, and there are no officers in the fire department in the Air Force. So I would have had to completely come out, retrain, and go back in, or get a degree in another field. And so the odds that they were going to let me out, go to bootstrap, and come back were like zero. So
Right.
I did toy with the idea of leaving for a while, getting my degree, and going back as a chaplain, but never did it.
Oh, yeah. That would have been good.
It would have been a good journey, but I didn't do that. My son right now is on active and just started his working on his degree in law.
That's awesome.
He fancies himself being a reacher. He's in law enforcement now, and he's like, I want to go back and get my degree and work my way up. And
Go be reacher. That's good.
yeah, reacher's kind
gotta
of
get jacked, too.
That's his goal. Well, he's 6'3" and about 210 right now.
Oh, so he's got half the battle done already.
He's put on some pounds since he left, but got to keep putting those pounds in the right place.
Right, yeah. Something I'm
That's the hard
struggling with
part,
now,
yeah. Yeah, it's funny when you get off active duty where those pounds relocate, right?
Yeah. All the
Like
walking
separation anxiety, yeah.
Right.
That's what it was.
Well, my job before was walking across a ship. I think I was doing like 22,000 steps a day.
Wow.
Now it's not quite as active, just my general life, so even if I work out.
22,000 steps you could walk across our entire town 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably true.
I know. I used to have an office on the square, and I would walk to lunch, and I would walk back, and I was like, I still feel my lunch. I mean, I went for a walk after lunch, but all the way back to the office wasn't enough.
Right.
We're a mile away now, so it's a little different, but nobody wants to walk that. It's all up and downhill. So you're on active duty, you fall in love, you get married, you still wait 3 years to have a kid.
Well, we got married in 2018. So we waited about a year
Waited a year to get
post-marriage. But
married.
yeah, 3 years together, and then
Okay. And so now that you got this little girl in your life, you can have more?
Oh, it's something we talk about. Well, what was hard is when we had her, it was actually a complicated pregnancy. My wife had to have an emergency C-section.
Oh, I'm sorry.
At the time, the doctor said that we shouldn't get pregnant again because of the complications. And so we thought that she was the only one. All of a year or so ago, she came here, and there was a really good doctor here, and she went and saw him, and they did the whole dye scan to see, and they said, if you were my daughter, I'd say it's baby making time. So now we're at the point, though, where we have a 6-year-old, and so we're not, I don't know, we definitely we never saw ourselves as just having one. And so we're kind of open to it, but we're doing, the let go, let God, and we'll see if he gives us another, if not, we'll give all of our resources to our one. And if we get more, then we'll be blessed. And
maybe foster, adopt,
that's something important to me. Yeah, that's something that's very important to me, and me and my wife have talked about and still have definitely on the table.
Now, we have 4, and I can tell you from being a girl dad and having that 5-year age gap, there's a very interesting facet. If you haven't read the Birth Order book by Kevin Leman, get your hands on it as soon as you can. After about 4.5 years, the next child doesn't see themselves as a baby or a middle. They think they're the second firstborn.
That makes sense, because you can give them the full undivided attention again.
Well, and just the way they see the world, firstborn to baby, is completely different.
Right.
So we had 2 girls. The oldest is my redheaded stepchild. She was 4.5 when I came into her life, and so she's now not that young anymore, and a mother in her own right, but she's also a cardiac patient. She had a heart attack at 17. We nearly lost her. She spent several days in ICU, and they told her, give up your medical career. There's no chance you're going to be a rad tech. Give up all these dreams of college basketball with your heart condition. It's not going to happen. Give up the idea of ever being a mother. Pregnancy will kill you. She's an RN. She instructs those in neonatal ICU and specialized for a season in neonatal ICU as a cardiac.
That's amazing.
And so now she trains people for that thing. She is a mother of 3 boys, and 2 of them have a similar condition, but she just refused to give up.
Yeah.
Raising a fiery little redhead as a firstborn, and then having another one. Now we had 2 girls, strawberry blonde and a raspberry red, and both of them think they're firstborn. So it was constantly just, no, I'm in charge. And then when the younger one got by about 12 to be taller than the other one.
Oh no, that's when the power struggle happened.
Oh, at 14, I remember getting a phone call. We had a DJ business at the time. I got a phone call and she's like, hey, I'm just wondering, is that guy rocks your company? I'm like, yeah. Why are you asking that question? She said, do you have 2 daughters? And I'm like, oh. She said, they're in Chili's right now. I said, yeah, I can only imagine. She said, they are absolutely adorable. Do they DJ as well? And I'm like, well, yeah, they do. She said, okay, so which one is the DJ, the older one or the younger one? I'm like, well, which one do you think is the older one? She said, well, the taller one, obviously. I said, no, that's actually the younger one. And yes, she does DJ. And so we ended up doing, several, I think it was like 6 parties for this one lady over the next several years because of the way those two interacted in a Chili's.
Oh, that's amazing.
But their relationship has always been like that. So 6 years old is a perfect time to have another daughter is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it would be loads of fun.
I mean, I'm still interested. I definitely want to have more. So it's something on the table for sure.
It's a good excuse. It's a good excuse. Well, then we had 2 boys after that, and both of our boys tower over me. They're both taller than I am, and the girls are both shorter than I am. So to see the girls go, listen, you, that's not going to work out well for you. Okay, so tell me what brought the book to mind, Molly May and the Magic Magnifier.
What's funny is it all came from this concept I heard while in the Navy, where they say you amplify what you magnify.
Okay.
And so the whole idea being that whatever you choose to focus on, right? So you're making bigger, you're magnifying. And the more you do that, the more it feels like what actually is, right? So if you're deciding like, oh, I didn't get much sleep last night, and you choose to focus on it, you're going to magnify it, make it big, it's going to affect your day. And instead, if you choose to look for the good things, right, kind of like what you read, though bad things will happen, as they often do, it's important to look for the good stuff too, right? Because I don't think I think everyone would agree that, especially right now, there's plenty of bad that we could all look at and catastrophize and think everything's horrible. But what I've found is that you can also find, the nice conversation with a stranger. You can find the nice thing being done at the store, or a relationship even between a parent and child, or, and just see these interactions. And you could focus on good things like, oh, I had a great cup of coffee this morning. And if you blow that stuff up instead, it changes your perspective to be, okay, I had a good day, instead of focusing on the bad. And so I was working on this concept with my daughter, because she would do that, right? And honestly, this book is exactly written based off our interactions, right? Where she'd be like, I didn't have any fun at this party today. And I was like, what do you mean, why not? Well, I didn't get to really bounce very much, or I didn't get to jump in the jump house that often, or, my favorite song, they never played it, and I was like, well, but didn't you get to play with friends? And, well, yeah. And I was like, but you did get to bounce eventually. Well, yeah, and I was like, well, it doesn't sound that bad. And so it was all just, and I would work on that phrase with her, which is funny with a 5-year-old, trying to get her to say amplify and magnify and what they mean, But basically that concept is what I was working on, and I used to write poetry a lot back in the day, so rhyming isn't something I really struggle with. And so I just thought, why don't I just make this a book? I was like, I'm already working on it with my daughter. I already have this experience, and it's a concept that took me, I didn't hear it until I was 30. So how great would it be to be able to give this in a book, first to her, and then second, at all, if any kid benefits from it and can learn this concept early, how much it could hopefully change or impact, or at least that's my hope, is that these older concepts that take a long time, is if I could make it fun and interesting, and that it would impact another family out there.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, obviously the concept is solid, like you said. I mean, from Brian Tracy to Steve Siebold and Jack Canfield and even Dr. Caroline Leaf, you get more of what you focus on.
Right.
It's a pretty solid rule. That's like gravity. It's just a law.
Yeah.
It's why when we're learning to drive, they say, don't look at the headlights of the oncoming car. You're going to run into it.
Right.
The first time that concept really settled into me, I thought, if I'm water skiing and I think I'm leaning too far to the left, I probably am going to fall to the left.
Right.
Or to the right, I'm going to fall to the right, or too far forward or backward. But if I just lean back against the rope and keep it tight and go where the boat goes, that doesn't seem that hard. And following God is like that. I mean, if you're out over your skis, so to speak, you're literally going to fall on your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're worried about things that are outside of your control, you're going to crash.
Right.
But you've got to submit and follow, go where the boat goes, hold on to the rope, and just do what comes at you.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's, like you said, that's a whole lot easier to teach. My first book I wrote, nowhere near this quality. In fact,
Oh gosh.
it was so hideous. I actually had a lady several years later. She's like, I've thrown this book away 6 times.
Stop.
It's serious. Victoria Rogers, if you're watching, you know
does that
what
mean
I'm
she
talking
bought
about.
it 6 times?
No.
Oh, was it a?
I gave it to her, and she threw it away 6 times. And she said, she called me, and she's like, meet me at Main Event. We need to talk. And I'm like, okay. And she said, all right, so I've thrown this book away 6 times because that cover is so ugly, it doesn't appeal to me at all. I'm like, why did you keep digging it out of the trash can? She said, because I've been in your classes, and I love you. And I'm like, okay. She said, but that book, no. And I said, okay, so why are we here today? She said, because I finally dug it out of the trash because I didn't have anything else to read on a long flight. And I read it cover to cover on a single flight. And I said, okay. She said, that's what made me mad. I said, what? She said, I was in chapter 4, crying my eyes out, realizing that what you told me to do in chapter 1, if I didn't do that first, what you told me to do in chapter 4 wouldn't work. And it's a step-by-step book. All 13 chapters tell you something different to do to completely change your life.
Wow.
And she said, it really needs to have questions in it. I said, well, there's a companion study guide that goes with it. She's like, no, put it in the same book because people are not going to buy the separate book. We redesigned the cover, the whole thing. She finally said, that's a book I could be proud to endorse and carry around. So we made that progress.
That's awesome.
But I wrote that book because I had that conversation with my mom when she was scrubbing the urinal. And she's like, I'm a high school dropout. It's the best job I'll ever have. I'm like, no, that's a lie you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
And until you change that story, you're going to get more of what you focus on.
Right.
And so when I wrote the book, though, I realized Jack Canfield, 398 pages. John Maxwell, average book, 250 to 300 pages, some of them fatter than that. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 600 pages, right? And I'm like, my mother will never read those books. So how do I get this concept across to her? And I committed to writing a book under 200 pages.
Awesome.
What I never thought about was, how do I take those ideas to little kids? And so it sounds like you've taken some complicated concepts down to the elementary age level of communication, which even Myron Golden says, think like a PhD and communicate like a 3rd grader.
That's a good saying. And I mean that's been the that's been the goal, and I'm hoping I did it well. You know, like all I can do is my best, and it's and I think that's really
Sounds like the title of your next book.
Maybe all I can do is my best, right? I mean, there's plenty there's plenty out there, and it is fun thinking about which other ones could have a similar impact, and I'm hoping that I can bring it down to a level where kids read it and want to read it.
So have you done live reads? Have you sat down, in the library or the local bookstore and read books to kids?
So I haven't yet. I have actually. So actually, this Saturday, the YMCA over here is having Healthy Kids Day.
Okay.
And so I'm supposed to. They invited me to come have a table, and so I'm going to come set up a table with my books, and they wanted me to do a reading actually at 12:30 and 2:30. So that'll be actually my first live reading at some event. But besides that, I was in person at St. Helens on April 4th. April 4th, and I read it a couple times when people asked, but nothing official. So I still got to get there. I'm still kind of branching out, since the publication of the book, and I'm still.
Well, we will make the studio available if you would like to do a live reading and bring a bunch of kids in and record that.
That would be awesome.
You can come in here and we'll set up some little comfy chairs for them, and we've got some little game chairs in there.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Orange chairs and white chairs, and make a space for that if you want to bring some kids in and
I'd
film
love
it.
that.
Because I think having that available on a video would be a great, not only a promo, but a great lesson as well. You might also, if you haven't already thought of it, talk to Cook's children.
Okay.
Because the hospital has all kinds of little stuff like that. And
Okay.
this is the kind of stuff that would be, great to be in their library, but probably be great to read to them too.
Yeah. No, that's great, and I really appreciate that, because my goal is not to. I've got a job. Like this wasn't made to make money, but just impact, and that's all I want. And so anything that helps me with the reach, I appreciate, and that's really awesome. And I feel like at Cooks especially, that could be a great resource. Maybe there's kids there who could use a book or a story.
Oh yeah, well, and of course Ruth's Place and all the other Biloxi River and all the other children's advocacy programs, even right here in Granbury.
Yeah.
There's a great opportunity to invest in them, so to speak.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
So when you wrote this one, how many other books were in your mind? How many other titles did you wrestle through? Or, as an author, I've written 7 books myself. I haven't published all of them yet. Some of them are still on hold. But the ones that are out there, I have a collection of poetry and short stories that I wrote while I was on active duty.
Wow.
It's 465 pages, or 456, somewhere. It's
That's
over
amazing.
450. It's the second run, because the first run, I used to just handwrite all my poetry, and I took them to a lady, and she said, I'll type them all up, and then she destroyed my originals and took credit for all the other ones that she typed.
Wait, she did?
She did, yeah. So all the originals are gone from like time I was 14 years old until I got on active duty.
Oh, I'm
So when I
sorry.
started over at 19, I kept all those. I even bought my own typewriter that
Yeah.
had memory in it, so I would type stuff and it would, go back
Log
and
it.
retype it. And then I actually ran into a lady in 2010, 2008, when we started going to Gateway Church, and a lady said, I would love to type your stuff up. She typed it, proofread it, and we published it to make sure that nobody could steal it.
Right.
So,
Man, that's the scariest part.
yeah.
Right? I mean, as you know, you put your heart, soul, experience, everything into a book.
Yeah.
And, for me, I had a similar, well, I didn't have a similar experience as far as someone actually stealing my work. And so I'm really sorry about that. That's hard to hear as an author. But what was hard is when I finished the manuscript, right? Because then I have to seek out illustrators.
Right.
And I remember I went and got about 6 different to send me a proof, right? So I reached out, got each one to send me a page. And then I landed on one I liked. And they're like, okay, well, just send me the manuscript. And there's nothing, like, in my head, even though I went and I got it copyrighted, right? And I had her sign an NDA. Because, I'm sitting here like, it was like dreading it.
Yeah.
And even after all of that, I remember putting it in the email. And I was like sitting over the send button. And I was just like, once it's out, it's out. Like there's no
Yeah.
bringing it back. And so I remember just
It's like taking your kid to daycare the first time.
right. You're like, once they're out there, you can't bring them back in.
Yeah.
And it's
And
like
whatever happens, you can't undo it.
right, exactly. And even if who knows if someone could just take it and be like, oh, it's pretty good. I'll just make some adjustments and keep it. It's hard to like.
Yeah.
And
Sony does that.
do they?
Yeah. I have friends in the Christian media industry, obviously. A friend of mine is an attorney. He was actually a medical doctor. He was the first medical doctor on scene of the Murray Building bombing in Oklahoma City. He said, pulling the glass out of those babies' faces was more than I can take, and I left the medical industry. Went back and got his law degree, so now he's a JD MD.
Wow. Oh, wow. A double doctor. Yeah.
Small overachiever. He's also
Yeah, just a little.
he's also a film producer, an actor, a playwright. He does all of it. But he works for one of the largest Christian film houses in the U.S. In their executive team.
Wow.
And he said, you would be amazed how many times people come to us and they're like, we want you to write me a check for X. Sony offered us X. He's like, let me tell you what the legal document says that you signed with Sony, because I've had clients that went that way. They took their $5 million, $15 million, whatever it was for the screenplay, and Sony went, yeah, great, because they'd rather spend the money than deal with the narrative.
Yeah.
And if the film has a strong message, and the film has great writing, and the film has if you got just the right actor to portray that part, the world would change the way they see things.
Yeah.
Sony will pay to destroy that message.
Right.
They'll buy it up just so that nobody ever sees it.
No one ever produces it because it'll ruin it'll ruin a part of the industry, right?
Yeah,
it's-
and so they're glad to just buy it up and do that. And I'm afraid that truth is out there. And, even today I was listening to Myron Golden, and he said, it's common that people feel like if I had a book, then I would be a millionaire. If I just had a book to sell, I'd be a millionaire, because once I write a book, then a lot of people, want me on the stage, want me on their podcast, et cetera, et cetera. He said that's not always true, number one. Number two, there are a lot of people who are so desperate to do that they'll steal somebody else's content to write
Yeah.
a book. And while you may be able to have their content, you don't have their character.
Right.
You may have all of the words they say, but you don't have their essence.
Right.
And their essence is what really carries it.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
it would be one thing for somebody to write a book like this who's not a girl dad.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
To say, I understand children's concepts. Jordan Peterson could write a children's book, for
Right.
example. A man's a psychologist, he understands
Yeah.
all that. But he's also a girl dad.
Yeah.
And so if someone who never had a daughter, regardless of their education level, wrote a book and said, this is for father-daughter relationships, you're like, Yeah, you don't get it.
Yeah, you know, yeah, exactly.
I'm a girl dad and a boy dad, and I have 13 grandkids, and being a girl dad is a different thing.
Right.
It's a completely different thing.
And I remember thinking that, I actually had a conversation about that with my dad, because I was saying, you know, Dad, this book, it's like, who knows, there may be a million other people who have said the similar story or had a similar thought or experience. And, you know, my dad's always been a great sounding board for me, you know, just really wise man. But he said, he's like, yeah, but they're not going to say it exactly how you would. And he's like, just because the story exists doesn't mean that it's going to be received the same way. And he's like, I think you should just do it and just keep doing it because you love it, you know, and people are either going to like it, they're going to, because of the person that made it, you know, or because of the heart that went into it, or the words that you used, or the way you decided to do it. And it was just, you know, it was very encouraging to hear him say that, and to think that hopefully, I could instill some of my voice in there, you know, and have it be just authentic as opposed to trying to be like something else, you know.
There's a story, I believe the first time I read it was in Everyone Communicates, Few Connect by John Maxwell. The story goes that there was a Christmas party in England back around the time of World War II, and there were several people gathered, and Grandma was in and out of the party, finally fell asleep in the corner, as old people do. And at some point they decided we're all going to share our favorite Bible passage. And so several people got up and, you know, rehearsed or reiterated what they had memorized. A solicitor, a lawyer, stood up and recited the 23rd Psalm beginning to end perfectly, flawlessly, never missed a beat, got every word, every enunciation exactly perfect. And when he finished, everybody, you know, nice polite round of golf applause. And a few minutes pass, and Grandma stirs in the corner, and they're like, hey, we're just sharing our favorite Bible passage. What's yours? And so she stands up and does the 23rd Psalm. But she forgets part of it. And she stumbles, and she mispronounces words. And when she gets done, there's not a dry eye in the house. And so the solicitor stands back up, and he says, you know, I have to both apologize and say thank you. The difference between the way you responded to my story and the way you responded to hers is I know the 23rd Psalm. She knows the shepherd.
Give me chills.
That's the difference between being able to mechanically, correctly articulate the proper words in the proper order,
right,
versus tell the story that you lived through.
Yeah.
And that, it's the whole reason that StoryPower Academy exists.
Right.
We see so many people that want to demonstrate their expertise through the list of credentials, the articles of their resume. And you're like, that's awesome. But I don't think anywhere in the Navy they trained you to write a book like this.
No, yeah, no, that's definitely not from that.
And so the other thing I say all the time is, you know, it doesn't matter how hard you squeeze a pineapple, there's no ketchup in there.
Yeah.
Like, keep squeezing it. That's not what's in there.
Right.
But what's really in there is what comes out when you're under pressure. So even the book awards that we're participating in Pittsburgh this next weekend, all Christian authors from all different walks of life, some Christian fantasy, some Christian, you know, children's books, and all kinds of stuff. We're doing, I think right now we're at about a dozen one-on-one interviews that we'll do like this.
Oh, amazing.
And they have no idea what to expect. And I have no idea what to expect. They're like, should we send you book covers and backgrounds and synopses? And I'm like, no, because I don't care about the book. I care about you. I want to know who you are. I want to know why you wrote this. And I want to squeeze the pineapple.
Yes, yeah.
I want to put you under pressure in front of the camera and see what comes out.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me about your dad and siblings.
Yes, mixed families, but about 10 siblings.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How many sisters?
Different, 9.
9 sisters.
Yes.
So you're the only one. You're the only male.
No, well, so that's what, I'm sorry. I have 2 brothers.
Okay.
So I think I have 11 siblings.
Holy cow.
I know. It's all, like I said, it's all blended, mixed. I'm the only child between my dad and my mom.
Okay.
But then the rest.
So dad had some before, mom had some before?
No, dad,
like
I was his first.
Okay.
My mom had some before. I was his first. And then my dad actually didn't get married, and because him and my mom actually weren't married.
Okay.
But him and his now wife didn't actually get married until way later. Like, they had their first kid when I was 20. You know, so it was a full lifespan. You know, so yeah, exactly. And so now, you know, my youngest sister, well, second youngest sister, I guess, Charlotte, she's about to be 18, and
Wow.
Then there's Bianca after that. So those are the youngest two. But it's funny because in a way, me and my dad are raising kids together, which is an interesting experience. Granted, they're much older, but I get to pick his brain, and it's still relatively recent in there, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's pretty funny because we have with 13, we have 3 of them under the age of 2. Twins that are 15 months, 16 months this month, and one that's 9 months. But the 9-month-old is special needs.
Wow.
And was a way preemie. So at 9 months, he's just now doing what an average 5-month would do. So sitting up, looking around when things move, paying attention to voices, looking for people when he hears them talk that he recognizes,
Wow.
reaching for things and grabbing things at 9 months.
Yeah.
But he's still not using his legs to push up or stand up. He barely sits up on his own. On the other hand, the ones that are 15 months, they get in their little walker things and chase each other through the house like NASCAR and knock things over and pick up the dog. And you're like, how did you even do that? And, you know, bumps and bruises all over their heads. And so it's pretty fun to watch. But what's really fun to me is watching my adult children look at me like, don't drop him. I'm like, you lived.
you, yeah, right.
I mean, I got you here alive.
Yeah.
I think I can handle this. They look at my wife and they're like, Lolly, can you handle the twins? And she's like, all 4 of you. I mean, there was a season that I was working 60, 70 hours a week at Verizon and 2 other jobs on top of that. And Mom was at home with 3 of them under the age of 5.
She can handle the twins.
She's like, I got this. My daughter's like, are you sure? Okay? She turns around, she's like, I forget, you're the sleep whisperer. The baby's out.
Yeah.
How do you even do that? It takes me hours to put them to sleep. Lots of experience. That's
Right.
exactly how. So it's pretty fascinating to see that growing up together. So what kind of things did you learn from your dad when you were 6 that you would look at and go, it's in the book now?
Oh, man. That's a really good question. You know, I mean, I think one of the important ones he taught me that really stuck with me is he would say, well, first was that no one else, it may not be this exact book, but who knows, a future one, but he would say that no one else cares about what you're doing. Everyone is too busy thinking about themselves, just like you are.
Yeah.
Right? Whenever I'd say, well, they're looking at me, they're making fun of me, he's like, if they do, it's only going to be in their head for like an hour. After that, they're back to
Or
thinking about what
30
everyone
seconds.
thinks about them, right? Yeah, so, and
They're
that was
only thinking about you long enough to mock you, so they don't have to think about themselves.
exactly, right? And so he gave me that one, and he also said that everyone's only been given one brain, and you only have the ability to think for yourself, you know, so don't think for somebody else, because you can't control them, right? And you can't feel for them. So feel for yourself, do the right thing, and just know that, they're going to think and feel whatever they want, and you can't control it. So those were 2 things he taught me about, you know, early social relationships that helped me out a lot.
And you remember those from the elementary age?
Oh, yeah.
Repeated over and over again?
Yeah, maybe like 10, 11-ish. So yeah, still in elementary age. I was a little bit older when you start getting more concerned about what people think, but it was definitely something that still stuck with me, and I've seen to be true throughout my life, you know, and try to internalize.
You ever read anything by Bruce Lipton?
I am so bad with names.
Okay.
I mean, I know Jordan Peterson, but like, no, Bruce, I'm not sure
So
what
Bruce
book.
Lipton would be a good, not a contrast in the tension pulling the opposite end, parallel with a different set of values.
Okay.
Bruce Lipton has written several books. One of the most profound things that I heard from him, I didn't know until I was in my 40s. Which means I raised all 4 of my kids not knowing this, and most of my grandkids not knowing this, and I'm watching my kids raise their kids and just now discovering how profound it is.
What was it?
We've always heard, and we know this as a fact as grown-ups now, your insurance rate changes when you turn 25.
Yeah,
Why?
because your brain connects.
The prefrontal cortex, right?
Yeah.
So now you're aware that there are consequences for stupid decisions.
Right.
Right. Imagine the number of parents who are parenting before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? That's a side note. Here's the real one. The subconscious brain is formed in the human between birth and 6. Now, if you've ever studied the reticular activating system, that part of the brain that causes you to constantly remember the thing you become aware of, It's what your book is all about.
Right.
So the reticular activating system says nobody has a green Buick until you buy one. Now
Yeah,
everybody
now
seems to
everyone
have
has
one.
one, yeah.
Right. It also doesn't know past from future, real from imagined.
Yeah.
Which means whatever you tell the subconscious brain, it takes as reality right this minute.
Yeah.
And the executive function, which you don't have because that's part of the prefrontal cortex.
Right, right.
But the executive function that you do have tries to act on, at least emotionally, that bit of information.
Yeah.
Which means a father who yells in anger at his 5-year-old and says, I'm going to rip your head off and nail it to the wall.
Yeah.
That 5-year-old cannot delineate that that's hyperbole.
Right.
Or imaginative.
Right.
Or just some mean thing to say.
Yeah.
Their brain begins processing what would it look like if.
Right. Yeah.
And so many parents don't realize that they say harsh things to their kids because they're caught up in their own feelers.
Right.
Parents acting like children, not managing their emotions, not managing their lack of gratitude, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. And so somebody cut me off in traffic and I take it out on my 3-year-old.
Right.
And the 3-year-old's going, I just barely figured out how to open my sippy
Yeah.
cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am not responsible for what that moron just did in the traffic, but everything that's coming through you, if you're not a cautious parent. The word intention, obviously I've known since middle school as
Yeah.
a word. The practice of intention, I have to learn to redo every day.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm afraid there are a lot of parents who have not taken time to write a kid's book, which means to me, they haven't taken the time to think through, how do I communicate the concepts that have kept me alive and allowed me to prosper?
Right.
How do I communicate them to my 5-year-old?
Right. Well, and how do you love and nurture someone who is just coming through world, and like you said, right, the most formative years are these, obviously first 6. I didn't know the exact time, but it's like at a certain point, you just, if they know if they're feeling loved, safe, protected, right, and
the hierarchy of needs.
Right. And so they need to be able to feel that. And there's actually this, have you heard of you probably heard of it. You're a very well-read man, but the crazy disrespect cycle, or the crazy cycle. Have you heard about this in regards to children?
Sure.
So it's this concept that, we both have needs, right? Parents want to feel respected, kids want to feel loved. And when a parent doesn't feel respected, it's very similar, right? Like, this can be applied in a lot of situations. But, so when a kid gets their feelings hurt, right, all they know is their feelings are hurt. They don't know particularly which one it is. They don't know they're feeling jealous or anxious, right? They know, like, I'm not happier. And so then they're maybe doing something to make the parent feel it, right? So they disrespect them, or at least perceive disrespect, right? And so then we get disrespect, so then we act in a way that's unloving, and then they act in a way that's disrespectful, and then we act in a way that's unloving. And someone needs to break that cycle, right? Because, and it should be the parent, right? You're the one who's got the emotional, hopefully, ideally.
You're supposed to.
Supposed to, right? And barring, people have traumatic experiences and upbringings that may not give them the tools that they should have.
I have a daughter-in-law who wears a shirt that has the little starter bars on it, and it says adulting. And it's like in the it's like the lowest signal. You're like, come on, you need to fill all those in.
Exactly, and it's like, so we're supposed to be the one, like a kid, like my daughter has told me before, I hate you, Dad. Right?
Oh, wait till they're 16 and they say it and you think they mean it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming, right? And they'll say it, but in my head, I'm like, they don't know what they're saying. They don't know the exact, there's definition, or what is it? Connotation and definition, right? And it's like, the definition of hate is one thing and the connotation's another. They don't realize hate being a word that means like I don't ever want to see you, like things we would connotate with hatred.
Right.
They just know that they are having a big feeling. And
when they say that at 22 and they've got a bag over their shoulder,
you're like,
that's a different thing than when they're 6 and they're mad because you didn't give them the right color crayon.
Right. Well, one thing that I've actually stolen from my mother that I love is she would always say, like if we said something like that, she goes, "That's okay, I love you enough for both of us." Something like that, and it just made us more angry because we're,
My mother would say, I would say, I'm mad. She'd say, that's okay, you get the same pants to get glad in. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but I like it.
That was as bad as, keep your eye on the ball. I didn't get that till I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Why do you keep telling me that? That doesn't make any sense.
It's good stuff, though, and it's like, so, I don't know.
And it's amazing how we, as adults, communicate in a way that other adults look at us and go, what?
Yeah.
Like a dog hearing a funny noise. And then we think our children are going to get that.
Right, right. When they don't even, like you said, just learn to open their sippy cup, right? You know, there's like, you got to speak at a level where, or understand that they aren't, I don't know, it takes me a long time to remember something.
Yeah.
And so when it's like getting frustrated at them for not learning something right away, they're learning a whole language. They're learning how to be a civilized human being, right? Not just some wild creature left to their own devices, right? They're learning a million things at any given time. And while they can learn really fast, this actually brings up another good concept that my dad taught me also, which was he taught me to always believe that everyone is doing their best. And even though their best may not be as good as yours, it may be the best they have to offer in that moment. And so really someone might have just had a hard time getting out of bed that day. And maybe for them, being out in the world and being grumpy is the best they have to offer. It doesn't mean they're a horrible person. It just means that...
Hopefully they're not always like that.
Hopefully not, right? But people could be at any stage of life.
Yeah.
You know, you never know what someone's going through unless you talk to them. And so the thing he always tried to instill in me is to believe that everyone is doing their best, even if their best doesn't look good in that moment. And so I think, same with a kid, right? I try to believe she's always trying to do her best. I've never seen her try to be malicious or angry. And if she forgets or she does something, I try to believe it's like, oh, she got excited and wasn't thinking it did something, right? She's trying to figure out the world. And so it's, and has that concept come back to probably bite me? Yes, it probably has, right? You know, believing everyone is doing their best is an easy way to get taken advantage of. My wife always says I'm overly gullible, because I try to just believe people. I just try to trust until proven otherwise, which is like, you're so gullible.
So you get the trust but verify on one side of that.
Right.
John Maxwell says, see everybody as a 10, and that's a high level leadership principle.
Right.
But he said, give them the benefit of the doubt, give them a rope long enough to hang themselves with, but hopefully to pull their load.
Yeah.
And when you watch people demonstrate that they are untrustworthy,
then you know how much rope to give
then you
them.
believe them.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you believe them. But until then, but another thing he made a point of, and this goes back to what you said, because it's a practice that parents need to do more, and that is sometimes what they need is us to believe that they're doing their best.
Right.
Because as adults, we use the phrase imposter syndrome.
Yes.
For them, it's an identity crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in that first 10 years, they're still asking, who am I and where do I fit in this world?
Right.
And it's part of the reason that, not to get super political, but the gender confusion idea and gender surgeries for little people, they can't figure out what socks they want to wear, for heaven's sake. Watch them go out the door at 7 years old, and you're like, are you wearing that in public?
Right.
Because you're going to embarrass me looking like that.
Right.
But at some point, you're just like, let them make the decisions.
Yeah.
Let them experience the consequences. But something as permanent as a surgery for a decision, I can't open my sippy cup, but I can choose to be.
No.
What a train wreck. But at the same time, we have to give them room to say, I believe that you're doing your best when you're still trying to figure out what best is.
Right.
Could you actually do better than what you're doing right now? I believe you could, and here's how you might do that.
Right.
And I believe that's responsible parenting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't mean to say, I guess I don't mean to say that when I say believe someone's doing their best, that's the best they'll ever be. Right. Because there's also that saying,
or that you allow them to cut corners and be lazy.
Right.
Because you still raise the standard of expectation.
Absolutely. I still have a pretty high standard for my daughter. I just don't hurt her for it when she falls short, right? I will try to show her where she could have done better.
And it's not judgment, it's direction.
Right, and that's exactly...
drastically different.
That's exactly what I tell her, because she'll always sit there like, oh, I'm getting in trouble. I'm like, you're getting corrected. There's a difference between correction and trouble. You're not in trouble, you're being corrected. You're being shown a way.
Right.
And there's a difference, and it's, and so when I guess there's another saying that I try to, that I hold dear, which is that you don't treat someone by where they're at, you treat them by what they could be. And it's like, so I know what she can be. And so I'm going to treat her like that. But if she falls short, I'm going to believe she tried her best. And like you said, I think sometimes the most important thing is instilling in a kid that they have their parents' support and they know that when they fail, that they're not going to get it twice at home, right? Because you're already going to be dealing with failure, which is arguably, or like some people use a different word. I don't have a negative connotation with failure. For me, it's like you try something.
Failure, it's a foundation.
There it is, right? Something like that. Because if you've never, the biggest failure is never trying, right? And when you try and fail, you've learned something to try again. And once you stop trying is the ultimate failure. And that's...
Okay, so I'm going to pick your brain on this one because I use all the time. Thomas Edison said, I didn't find 10,000 ways to fail at making a light bulb.
Yeah.
I found 10,000 other things that are not a light bulb.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty complicated way to say it, and you still have to break that down, even
Yeah.
working with adults in communication and leadership.
Right.
How would you say that to your daughter?
Well, I guess, I mean, that is kind of like the, I mean, I guess the thing that I've always said is that you don't stop trying, right? It's like you're going to try and you're going to fail, and then you just learn from it, and then you try again. And I was like, the only time, but it's like there's probably going to be a better way that would take some thought crafting. But it's, I don't know, one thing I just say to her, just because I was like, I don't know, I never grew up with some people have a family code, right? Like, Johnsons don't do this, or like,
Right.
And so I tried to just be like, Gerardis don't quit. Like, that's it, right? We just don't quit. And it's funny because she's called me on it before with it, which is great. That means it's sinking in,
Yeah.
right? There was a time, so I was going to, so I go to Stonewater here in town, and I was going to the church group Regen, and in that you go every Monday, and you have this book, and you're supposed to write stuff down and come in with something to bring, and I didn't get to the book that week, and so she comes with me because they have kids service at night, so she'll go there for 2 hours while I do my group. And one time I didn't have stuff, and they always say just keep coming, but I was like embarrassed, so I was like, we're not. And she goes, why aren't we going tonight? And I was like, because I didn't fill out my book and blah blah, like I'm just probably not going to go. And she goes, Dad, Gerardis always see things through. All right, get your coat, let's go. I was like, fine.
You're going to hold me accountable.
Right. Well, and I love that. I think I tried to. That's like one of those moments, right, where if she called me on that, then I was like, oh yeah, but that's for you, not for me. Then it's like, okay, it means nothing. Right? Like I had to sit there and be...
because that's the character, that's the integrity.
Right. So for me, it was really important to be like, all right, fine, get your coat, let's go, you're right. But now when I use it on her, she's like, dang, because she said it to me, remember you told me, Gerardis don't quit, we see the stuff through. So
my youngest son married into a family. So he got married and she already has a 3-year-old. Then they had the little special needs guy together. She was, before we met her, single mom, working 15, 16 hours a day, welding inside tubes. She's a little somebody, but
wow.
Just hard working. She's raised livestock all of her life. Just, salt of the earth kind of
Tough.
people.
Yeah.
The other night he came home from work. He gets off at 10:30. He gets home about midnight. And you're like, would you get stuck in traffic driving across Granbury? That's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And she is really upset with him because it's time to put the baby down and he needs medicine and all this kind of stuff. And she's just, yelling at him. They go to their room and he comes back out and I'm like, so what took you 90 minutes to get home? He said, I was doing what you've always taught me to do. I said, what's that? He said, somebody pulled up in the parking lot after we closed the parts store. I was about to get in the car and they were having a real problem keeping their headlights on. And so I took a look at it and I was able to fix it right there in the parking lot.
That's
It was
awesome.
just rewiring their negative ground cable. And I'm like, and that took 90 minutes. He said, at least 90 minutes. I was working as fast as I could. He said, but I wasn't going to leave that mom and her kids stranded on the side of the road with no battery after the parts store closed.
Yeah.
And I thought, I tell a leadership story constantly about interviewing for a job, and I was 15 minutes late for the interview because I stopped on the side of the road to help somebody else, because I would have rather lost the job than leave that person stranded. If you can help, you should.
Yes.
And so that's one of the principles that we've always taught our kids. My boys were probably 7 and 9, and we would see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire.
Yeah.
We'd pull over, and I would tell them, we can help you. They're like, oh, I've already called AAA. And I said, I'll make you a bet that those 2 boys under the age of 10 can have your tire changed before you can get AAA on the phone to cancel the call. And we did that on many, many occasions.
That's awesome.
Change flat
That is so
tires,
cool.
help people out, pull them out of ditches and all that kind of stuff. And so my kids have always been taught that way. My boys have always been told, you open the door for a female. I don't care if she's older, younger, if you like her, you don't like her, you don't know her, she's rude to you. You still open the door for a female. That's courtesy.
Right.
And I remember the 2 girls having a conversation one time, not my daughters, but the 2 that the boys were dating, and they're like, do you ever touch a door handle? And they're like, no, that is so weird. These guys are always opening the doors. I can get in the car on my own. I don't need your help. And I walked in the room. I'm like, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard what you said. And the minute he doesn't open your door, you tell me. And the minute you stop letting him, you and I have a problem.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does that mean? I said, because you've allowed him to disrespect you. And I have no tolerance for that. Okay, that's easy enough to teach at 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that here.
Yeah.
Right, we've got a 3-year-old grandson that was with us this weekend. At one point, he's picking up acorns. I'm like, what are you going to do with those?
Yeah.
I didn't even say it. He picks up all the acorns, gets in his car seat, drops them in the. Now, half the time my wife and I look at each other like, what did he say? I don't know what he said. And when we ask him 2 or 3 times to say it again, you have no idea what he's talking about, right? I mean, he says words, but nobody knows what they are. But she's sitting beside him, and he's got the little acorns in there, and he goes, the squirrels are going to love these.
Oh.
And you're like, again, with the help me open my sippy cup, and yet you've got the ability to think forward enough that I'm going to gather acorns now so I can feed them to the squirrels later.
That's amazing.
At 3.
Yeah.
Where does this come from? Right? And
Well, he must have, I mean, his parents are obviously empathetic people,
apparently.
or at least have emotional capacity for empathy, but that's amazing. You know what I mean? Those are, I think where it's, for me, it's like the idea of like a guy or a young man or a boy or whoever opening a door for a woman is a great lesson. And I think though, you know, for kids, it has to be less specific.
Okay.
In my opinion, right? Like, I think that's a great one. I think it's a great concept, but I think it's that maybe the idea of showing respect first, right? Because I still think that one of the biggest tragedies is that like kids nowadays don't also seem to just respect elders. You know what I mean? Like the whole respect your elders or themselves or
their
anyone,
peers,
right? Yeah, or peers or anything, right? It's just a general lack of respect.
I would have never pondered the idea of throwing a milkshake at a law enforcement officer with a sidearm.
No. Or, I mean, just those games where like kids were filming YouTube videos running up to knock people out and they killed an old guy because they wanted to get it on YouTube.
Yeah,
you know,
and then they met a Golden Gloves boxer. Did you see that video?
No, I didn't
That
see
was
that
hilarious.
one.
Like 5 of them attacked this guy on the streets in Boston. One guy just runs up and smacks him, and he turns and looks at him like, what was that all about? And then another one tries to blindside him from the other side. 2 or 3 of them hit him, and he just laid them all out, one-punch knockouts on all of them. And then he turns to the guy with the camera. He's like, next time you do that, don't pick on a Golden Gloves boxer.
That's awesome.
He was a Marine Corps boxer.
That's awesome. Yeah, tough as nails, you know, I mean, but it's like, I think.
FAFO.
Right, yeah, exactly, FAFO, you know, but I think that, I don't know, I think respect in general is where you start around this age, you know, and then you get into more specific instances about like, you know, opening a door, like a man opening a door for a woman is a respect thing, right? And I think that's where, I think what's been hard for a lot of young men right now, you know, is because I know that society tends to shift, like take big swings, right? And then overcorrect, and then you correct again, right? And I think that, you know, we went through that whole time where, because I remember that when I first met my wife, I had gotten to the point, right, I was living out in California. I had met my wife, and she's like, what, do you not open doors? I was like, well, most of the time the girls get like upset if I open it. You know, and so it's like,
Where
you said.
Where was she raised?
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
She seems like a down home
and what's
country
funny is
girl.
I would open doors, but then people are like, oh, don't do that. I can do it myself. Like, you know, it's the whole reverse momentum of like,
Yeah, chivalry's not dead. You strangled it.
Right. Yeah. You know, and so it's like, it stopped being seen as a sign of respect, or it's like, you know, also the whole, like as a way to keep, I don't know, someone down. It's like taken as a perspective, as patronizing, right?
Yeah.
And it should be seen as respectful because that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
But it's one of those where it's like, I feel for young men nowadays who are being told one thing, and like, or what, like women will say one thing about what they want, but then sometimes also there's like the respectful side, you know, which comes from older
it's
culture.
also that
you know?
individual thing, right? I mean, so Molly May, for an example. Molly May has a relationship with Dad. Dad's the perfect example of what it means to be loved. Dad's the perfect example of what it means to be respected. Dad's the perfect example of treating her like a princess. But then there's a sibling, or there's that kid at school, or there's that one down the street. And so she has a set of expectations, but nobody else seems to honor them or live up to them.
Right.
And so it's almost that place where it's like, you know, so my dad is the one that loves me like this, and everybody else has a different way. That's hard.
Yeah.
But then there's also, and we watch it, especially with kids 5, 6, 7 years old, they so respond to the peer pressure that you watch a kid that by themselves, they're conscientious, they're collecting acorns for the squirrels. Later, they're doing all these things, and then you put them in. Same little guy that's collecting squirrels. We go to the mall where there's these big styrofoam building blocks, and everybody's building all kinds of stuff. And he's helping, he's collecting, he's bringing them to them. And then about 15 other kids show up, and they range in age from 2, just younger than him, to 12, 14 years old.
Yeah.
And the 14-year-olds are carrying the bricks around, smacking each other with them, because that's what 14-year-old boys do.
Right.
And I'm just watching him from a distance. And there's 5 different races all hanging out together. They're playing, they're having a good time. Nobody's having an issue until 2 of the siblings start arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And I look up a moment later, and my little guy, who's always kind and conscientious, is following him around every time somebody builds something. He just knocks it over and walks off. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen that in him, but he was just being mean.
Right.
I'm like,
Just sponges. They see something, and it's like,
and
that's what
they
we
want to
do.
imitate it.
Yeah.
And they do it just like that. And so the challenge we have, I think, sometimes in setting that standard or expectation, and I had it for my girls. In fact, I think one of the biggest fights I ever had with my daughter, my youngest one, was the guy that she's now married to. Has been married almost 10 years. They have 6 sons together. And I said, why did you pick this guy? And she just stared me down, and she pulled out this list. She said, you remember when I was 14 and you made me write a list of the perfect man? I said, yeah. She said, he's 90%.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like,
That's an A.
okay, then I guess he passed. And she said, and he's more like you than you can imagine. And I'm like, okay. So, 10 years in now, we have a different relationship. She and I do, he and I do.
Yeah.
And it's that I've handed over my baby girl to this guy that better provide for her, better protect for her, better treat her with the same level of respect. But I have to admit, he used to travel with the power team.
Yeah.
When we met, he could bench press 600 pounds. He was a law enforcement officer at the time, now runs a roofing company. He's no small guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Most people are intimidated by him. He's intimidated by her. She's a bully.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Because we taught her to be independent, to have high expectations, to have standards.
Right.
And I tell him all the time, I'm like, I didn't spoil her like that. He said, no, you just trained her to be spoiled.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, well, you're the one spoiling her.
But
So
I think
that's on you.
I think that's the super important. I think you touched on a super important note there, where you teach that it's okay to accept help from a man who wants to help, and in a respectful way. But you also teach them not to need it, right? You be independent, you be strong, you be able to take care of yourself, all these things, but also know that it's okay to have someone else who wants to give to you, provide to you, take care of you, show you respect. It doesn't mean that you're any less powerful, strong, capable. It just means that you are open to having, or open to the fact that they can be respectful to you in that way. And I think that's the important thing, right? Where you want them to be strong, independent, smart, hardworking, driven, like all these
You should
qualities.
be capable of being self-sufficient, but also be willing to be provided for.
Right. Because the last thing you want is them to feel like all they can be is provided for, so then they stick around, so then they're in a situation where they're only there because they're being taken care of.
Oh, and that tension right now, it's both in our relationship with Christ and in our society that it is a train wreck, and that tension is between self-sufficiency and submission.
Right.
And submission has been traded for entitlement.
Yes.
And so we're either self-sufficient, we're so independent that you can't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
Or we're so entitled, not submitted, but entitled that you better tell me and you better give me and you better provide for me. And we were watching a cop video just last night, my wife and I were, and the lady's sitting at the bar with a $66 tab. Literally, the cops are like, honey, you need to pay your tab and leave or you're going to get trespassed. And she's looking at random guys going, you want to pay my tab? I'll follow you back to your room. You're like, what is wrong with society that we've gotten to this place? I mean, obviously what she's offering, inferring, implying is the last thing you want, right? But who takes up that offer? I mean, what kind of self-respecting anybody takes up that offer?
Right.
That's a flaw in our society.
Yeah.
But it starts with 5 and 6-year-old little girls. How do we build that shelter around them that they know what that boundary looks like?
Right.
I mean, if he's going to start yelling at her and cussing at her and throwing things at her and getting drunk and losing control, don't leave 3 years later.
Yeah.
Leave a while ago.
Right.
I mean, you're still here?
Well, and like you said, where's that foundation set, right? Because I guarantee that if a woman is accepting of that later in life, it's because it's what she received from her father,
Yeah.
who is the
Who set the standard.
set the standard of, well, that's
Or
okay.
disappeared and never set a standard.
Right, or never set a standard, right? And so they're like, well, this is what, well, he didn't leave me, you know, like,
Right.
or he didn't hit me, you know, so it doesn't make it acceptable, but they got a standard from a young age because of what was set, at least in my experience and my take on it. You know, I can't cite any scientific resources on this, but
I can tell you some of my own research study is I often show up places, I do it with my wife in tow 99% of the time for a reason. But we'll go someplace to a wedding or out for dinner, and if we have a server, I very often ask, so what are you going to school for?
yeah,
The amount of time that just asking a question that shows concern for something other than their body, their social status, or whether or not they're willing to party with you,
yeah,
melts them.
yeah,
They're like, wait, you obviously don't want anything. You're married, and I mean,
yeah,
why do you care? They never ask that question, but you can see that
Yeah.
puzzle on their face going, why are you asking me that?
yeah,
But very seldom do I get a no answer, or do I get a rude answer.
right,
What often happens is they want to deeply get engaged in a conversation.
yeah,
And it's because early on, nobody had that conversation with them.
yeah,
It went around as a motivational speech for a while. Probably happened 2015 or 16 at the Dallas Convention Center, the national TEA, the Teachers Teaching and Education Association, or Teachers, whatever it is, their union, their big union, had their big annual gathering at the Dallas Convention Center, 12, 15,000 people there. And they brought a little guy up who had told his teacher he wanted to go into education. And so they brought him up on the stage, young guy, African-American, probably 9, 10 years old. And they handed him the mic and they're like, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And they really expected him to go, well, I'm going to be a teacher just like all of you. So the whole crowd could explode. And when they asked him the question, he was like ready to answer the question, and he stopped and he put the mic down, but you could still hear him, and he leaned in, he goes, is it okay if I just want to be happy?
oh,
I'm like, dude, you just changed the world right there.
right,
Because what if you ask a 9-year-old and they don't have a career plan?
yeah,
I mean, did you have this plan when you were on active duty?
No.
Or in high school or in college?
Right.
I mean, nobody plans that kind of stuff out. And yet we look at our kids and we want to put that demand on them. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I don't know. Michael Jr. He said, I asked my son, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, a doctor or a dinosaur.
or
You're like, well, I mean, I guess they could both be possible.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
how many parents would stop right there and start trying to prepare them for the education, or
Right.
help them with the realism that
Right.
you can't be a dinosaur?
Yeah.
And so we lose the imagination, which, according to Myron Golden, is the highest paying of all work platforms in the world.
the imagination.
The imagination.
Makes
You
sense.
can work, you can manage. So laborer, manager, communicator, imagination, visionaries.
Yeah.
And he said, if you work in labor, 80,000 is kind of the top income you'll ever make.
Well, and 90% of, I feel like, being a leader is being able to have a vision, right? If you can't see or visualize the way something should be or correct, you're like, if you don't see a destination and what that looks like to get there, which is all imagination, then how are you going to inspire people to see that vision also and to like work willingly?
And then you've got to be able to transfer that vision through communication. You've got to be able to transfer that vision that you see, the picture that could be, to them.
Yeah.
Through a communication level that they understand. And that's a lot of what we focus on in the StoryPower Academy. I have people that come in and they're like, I just want to tell my story. I'm like, who wants to hear it?
Right.
Well, everybody should hear it. What good is it going to do for them when they hear it?
What's in it for them? Yeah.
What do they gain?
Right.
How does their life get better?
Yeah.
And that gap between I had a traumatic event and the vision that I have for my client
Right.
is missing.
Yeah.
And yet that's exactly the same thread of what we have to do for our kids.
Absolutely.
We have to be able to communicate that 3-year-old level, that 5-year-old level, that, if you can tell me anytime you have to go to the potty, we can stop wearing diapers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
Yeah.
means we can stay at the playground longer, which means we could go see a movie.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to jump and run to the bathroom, or, you sit there in a wet diaper.
Right.
So there's a reason that we got to get through this process, and it's not just because it's the age range.
Yeah.
There's a right time for this. There's a right season for it. There are rewards on the other side of this.
Right.
We realize that in business. Sell enough, we'll pay you a commission.
Yeah.
Accomplish these things, we'll give you a raise. We forget that those visionary incentives are necessary for our kids.
Absolutely. Right. Like, I mean, and just like with that 9-year-old where he said, all I want to be is happy. I mean, that's honestly a vision that they don't necessarily need to know what that looks like to get there, right? But it's like, how do you translate these ideas of like you making a vision, but you have to be able to transmit that picture, like you said, right? You have to be able to tell them like what happy looks like, or at least the bare minimum of what it seems like to be a successful, well-functioning adult.
Happy looks like.
Right, yeah.
Right? I mean, what is happy to you? I remember landing in Honduras. I was 20, maybe 21 years old. Flew into the CH-47, landed. There were like 40 kids running at us, white shirts and blue jeans. And I was like, we are 3 miles from the El Salvadoran border. Are those soldiers? Because you couldn't tell as they were running at us. You're like, oh my gosh. But when they get close enough that you can hear them, they're all yelling chocolate. That's all they want from the American Air Force is chocolate. And so we get off the plane, we're getting them all the chocolate, or the helicopter, we're getting all the chocolate we've got. And then as we walk to this place where we're going to do this civil engineering project, I see these kids playing soccer, and they kick the ball and fly through the air and hit the ground, and no bounce. It just splatted. That ball had no air in it at all. So I went to town to pick up lunch and stuff, and as we come back, I found a ball that cost me 6 lempira. That's less than 10 cents. And so I brought the ball, and we pulled up. I climbed out of the cut feet, and I threw it at them. And they started chasing that ball. I got no less than 40 hugs that day.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, if I went home to my siblings with a ball, it'd be like, where's my Xbox?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But that's not a gift.
Yeah.
And it's that level of gratitude, right? So what is happy to you? Is it a yacht?
Yeah.
Is it a double wide trailer? Is it a roof over my head tonight? I mean, any place that I can sleep. I was listening to a multimillionaire that was on she has 6 tracks of income. None of them make less than $1 million. Some of them $350,000 to $400,000 per month.
Right.
And so it was like almost $3 million a year. She said there was a season that I was staying in a hotel, and I came out of the hotel and there was a lady under the bridge with a tarp. And I thought to myself, thank you, God, that I have a hotel tonight.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what we're missing.
Is the gratitude.
That's the gap between the entitlement and the self-sufficiency.
Right.
Is the ability to say, I couldn't have done this without some kind of help.
Yeah.
Whether it's mom and dad or it's school or it's divine intervention, whatever it is.
Right. Well, and you know, they say that you know, expectation it robs happiness, right?
Yeah.
It's the death of gratitude, you know, because if you're sitting there expecting something, then why would you ever be thankful for it?
Yeah.
You should already have had it.
I thought I had a right to.
Yeah, I mean, it should be mine anyway. So when you don't have it, then you're just upset, right? As opposed to being grateful for anything that you get that wouldn't be something that you would already have, right? Like any sort of gesture should be, I don't know, for me, it's great gratitude just for the thought, right? Just like you said, for the intention of the gift. Even if someone's just thinking about me and they got me something, maybe I didn't need it, but it's like, oh, they thought about me. And that's the important thing, right? Is that someone cares enough about you that they saw this thing, thought about you, and then they decide, I'm going to get it and give it to them because I care about that person.
And I think that thoughtfulness is another thing that our society is losing quickly. I mean, you see kids in childcare, and of course we only see the horror stories, right? But we see the childcare providers smacking the kids in the head, beating them because they won't take a nap, you know, locking them in closets, taping them to the floor, and you're like, we entrusted you with the most precious thing in our lives.
Right.
And why would you get a job in a field like that if you despise your customer?
Right.
Why would you do that? And yet it's almost as if, like you said, it's that vicious cycle.
Yeah.
I'm mad, and so I'm taking it out on you, and you don't know how to react. So you react with anger, and so it just goes on and on and on. But if that's your MO, then you probably should have chosen another line of work.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I've thought about this a lot before, where it's like, how do you wind up there? Is it because you didn't think you had any other choices, right? Like we talked about being able to manifest what you believe you are like worth or capable of, right? Like, did you accept what you fell to, or did you pursue it because it was financially viable? Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with what you actually care about or like, but you're like, oh, you make a lot of money being an RN, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're going to have great bedside manner when they realize being an RN isn't just doing some work and then you have a lot of things that go into it, right? 90% of any job that looks great or like has great action moments is pretty much administrative suck, right? You know, like,
One of the girls that we were raising for a season, she went to medical school, got her CNA, and was working on the next level. And she called us one day and she's like, I quit. And we're like, okay, it'll be better tomorrow. And she's like, no, I quit. I had to change a bedpan today. I'm never doing that again. And you're like, so how much did you just waste on school?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually she passed to cancer, so we never saw the end of that journey. But that season that she invested so much in medical school for profit,
right,
for paycheck,
because doctors make a lot of money,
and didn't think about what the details, the daily part of the, like you said, the daily suck of the job.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do the part that has to be done.
Right.
You just started, so guess who gets to do that?
Well, and that's what I thought about too with, you see a lot of these like military movies,
Yeah.
right? And you see all these great action moments, right? They're kicking down doors, they're going in guns blazing, they're like on the ship, shooting things, launching missiles. They don't realize like that the year and a half before that was literally practice mission, inventory, like
and there's someone whose job it is to clean the latrine.
There is someone's job. Yeah, we call them hole technicians. Unfortunately, that's what that was their unfortunate gig, you know.
And now they own the plumbing company next door, and the septic
right, and they're
company
doing
down
great.
here, and the asphalt company at the end down there. And most of them learned that in the military, and now they're banking.
Yeah, I mean, with something you grow where you plant it, where you're planted, right?
Yeah.
If you have the right set of skills, like I mean, even myself, kind of like you said, when I was enlisted, I could have gone my route, right? They have something called AMDO, Aerospace Maintenance Duty Officer, which would have been in line with my career, but I decided I wanted to try to do something more Navy oriented and went Surface Warfare Officer, right? So that was like, went from the air side to the sea side, completely different field. I started this for a reason.
Foundation,
grow where you're planted. Oh, so I thank you. I tried to get out of calibration when I was feeling bored, stuck. I was like, 10 years of cal, it's same stuff. Like I want to go do something more. I want to action oriented, have some fun. Then I got out of the Navy and I was like,
engineering too, right?
Yeah, it has a lot of engineering, electrical engineering, a lot of physical, mechanical, pressure, all that stuff, right? But I remember I got out to go do something more fun. And then I got out of the Navy. I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm back in calibration, right? Because they give you this set of skills and you just know it so well.
Yeah.
And so it's just sometimes the skills you have lead to the passion, right?
So how would you teach calibration to her?
That's a good question. I mean, the way I kind of talk about it with other people who don't know what it is might be a good way, would be how do you know that a ruler is 12 inches, right? Like it says it's 12 inches. So you would get something that is for sure 12 inches.
When you know it's not.
Right, exactly, right? It's like there's measurement is in everything, you know, and it's so like calibration is also called metrology or measurement science, you know, and so the whole idea is that there's always something greater. Like they have the kilogram, right? Like there's like the thing that is the kilogram.
Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, Greenwich Mean Time, right? Everything has a source back to zero, you know, or as close to it as we can possibly get with our tools.
Right.
And then you have your things that you can measure with it. But I mean, if you're going to teach to a kid, I mean, I think it's like the concept would just be trying to show them like, I don't know, I guess just how to measure things, which it would probably be a very boring kid's book. But
no, actually, I think if you said, for an example, I mean, because we all did the kids illustration thing where you have 4 cups and then you have a quart or a pint and a gallon, and you got to figure out how many of these go in there.
Yeah.
I love the little Facebook memes, like the cute little blonde who's trying to put a suitcase in the overhead luggage thing. And there's a guy sitting in the seat holding one of those balls with the triangles and the cubes and the rectangles. And you're like, have you ever seen one of these? Obviously, you do not get this concept.
Yeah, this
right?
is not settled in. But yeah, I mean, that's probably what it would be. I mean, there's also fun ways to teach electricity to kids, right? Like using like hoses or something like resistance.
So
voltage,
I went to school for electronics engineering.
So yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't need to say it to you.
I studied for a little over a year, and then I had an emotional moment, broke up with my girlfriend the day of my final exam, and went from a 3.82 GPA to a 1.69, and quit and joined the military.
There you go.
My lab partner went on to work for Martin Marietta. He was part of the original design team of the Patriot missile.
Wow. Well, see, and those, I always like to, I refer to it as something, you know, do you ever have those things that you just kind of know colloquially, but you're sure there's an actual term for it?
Mm-hmm.
So I always call it the 10-year lens, right? Where you can look back at something that happened that was terrible at the time,
Yeah.
but realize that you wouldn't be where you were if you didn't have all those experiences, right? Where it's, you know, because I similarly joined the military for, you know, like it wasn't like I was just ripe with options and I was like, you know what, forget all that, I'm going.
I'm
right?
sitting
I was
in
like,
all
yeah, I was like,
Okay, so let me back up. 6 months? No, 1 year. 1 year. I graduated from high school, and I had offers for scholarship for music, physics, and speech.
yeah,
But I would have had to drive too far from home.
right.
I would have had to go from Lampasas. I don't know where you know where that's at.
No,
If you go to San Antonio from here and you go down the countryway through 281, there's a little town that you'll blink, you miss it. It's called Lampasas.
Okay.
That was my hometown,
Oh, okay.
Central Texas. It is 3.5 hours from Denton,
oh yeah,
1 hour from Austin.
oh, that's not too bad.
And so I went to school in Austin so that I could keep my high school sweetheart.
Yeah,
So I went to school for electronics to go into robotics instead of taking the scholarship for music, physics, and speech at UNT.
yeah,
So I've been a very
Yeah,
long route, lost
very
the
long.
girl, forgot the robotics, went into the fire department in the Air Force, and then came back, and where am I at? We lived in Justin, Texas, no less than 20 minutes from UNT for almost 10 years.
wow, and there you are right there.
For music, physics, and speech, which is now my career.
That's so funny to see.
I don't
though.
do music,
but
but-
you know, how many skills did you get for the long road that you're able to appreciate that where you're at now, right? And that's the whole like,
and it's all about learning that gratitude and appreciation. I have a client who has fired me 4 times and keeps hiring me back. In May of last year, I spoke at her annual banquet, and the message that I felt like was supposed to be, and it was just a keynote for the banquet, was the attitude of gratitude.
yeah,
And I said, you know, we have come to a place in our society where entitlement drives the day. And if we could just do what our parents always taught us to do, what do you say? Thank you. And so by the time we're done, I had brought that phrase up like 8 times. And at the very end, I'm like, so what do you say? Thank you. That was the
yeah.
end of the speech.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I set them up that way the whole time. But recently I did a podcast right here, one of the morning podcasts. I said, what if we just compared if you to thank you?
Yeah,
If you didn't cut me off in traffic, if you didn't make me the wrong cup of coffee, if you didn't show up late for work, because that's the blame game. That's the
Right.
shifting of responsibility. That's not looking what I could have done differently, but
Right.
only blaming you for what you could have done differently.
Right.
So instead of if you, what if we said thank you,
yeah,
even when it's a mistake?
right,
Thank you with the true intent to be appreciative, even if they gave their best and their best wasn't good enough.
right,
But to be grateful that they tried.
right,
To be grateful that they cared enough. Thank you for that gift. I didn't need one sock. I mean, I usually wear 2 at a time, but thank you
yeah.
for the one sock.
Thank you for the one sock.
I will find a way to use that, right? I have a son-in-law who only has 1 leg, so we joke about
No, there you go. Well, there you go. That's great.
Why
Every
do you
pack
buy
is
a
double
pair
the
of
sock.
shoes?
Yeah.
So it is a path of saying, how do I find gratitude for the worst?
Right. What?
And
Sorry.
no, that
You know, something that, well, so it's funny because I try to remain in that spirit of gratitude, right? But what's funny is sometimes you need help, you know, because it's not, and obviously prayer helps me a lot.
Yeah.
But there's also a cool story, and this guy put it out under have you heard of the book Chaos Theory?
yes.
And I don't necessarily subscribe to chaos theory, right? But one story that he told, which could just be applicable anywhere, was the whole idea of there was these 2 business partners who were going to the Twin Towers back in the day, right, for a meeting. And when they got on the plane, she gave him a gift, and it was a tie of the Starry Night, right, the Van Gogh painting, because she knew he
I
liked
have that
those old
jacket
ties.
hanging right over there.
Oh, awesome. I'll have to see that after this. But she gave him this tie, and they got there, and the only shirt he had to wear it with would have been like a green one. And she's like, that won't match. Go back to the hotel, iron the one you were wearing on the plane, put on that tie, and then you can come to the meeting. I'll go there to hold it down until you get there. Well, when he was back at the hotel, that's when the planes hit the World Trade Center.
Oh, wow.
And she ended up dying, and he ended up living. And so like the whole idea was that if she had never given him this tie and told him to go iron his shirt, he would probably be dead in the trade towers, right? And so what I do try to internalize that as is you can't ever know what would have happened if something happened differently. You could be upset that someone is taking 10 minutes longer because they're doing their hair in the bathroom, or like the baby is not getting their shoes on. But who knows what would have happened if you left 5 minutes prior? Maybe
Right.
you could have been on that accident on the side of the road. Like, you never know what life looks like and why things happened exactly the way they did. The only person who does is God, right? And so the way I see it is, if you need another reason to be thankful, just know that you don't know what the alternate could have been, and that,
Yeah.
and so it's like, that's just something that I guess I hold with me as knowing that you don't know, and you don't know what the alternate looks like. So just be thankful for whatever you've got in the moment, because we're alive, we're eating, we've got a roof over our head, we've got